Okay, let's sum this up. I took those spacers out, as you saw. There's one's over somewhere over there. There it is. Took those 1.5-inch spacers out and measured my ride height, and what do you think it is? Guess what? It's 26 inches. It was 27.5, now it's 26. So, wasn't any real big surprise there, but you can see it sits a little different than it did. But that's just the way these cars sit. Unless you do something like that, you know, if it eats you up to have them, you know, ride like that, sit like that. But I don't go for the jacked up look unless it's something like that over there that's appropriate. This that is not. So that's that. That's done. And it's sitting here running on right at about a 1/8 of a tank of gas, a little over, which is fine. So like I said, I think what was going on, I think the fuel pump, the check valves of the fuel pump just stuck briefly since it wasn't running for a couple years. That's the only thing I could think of. So. And so yeah, I still got a little work to do. Well, I guess I really didn't say why I'm working on this. Well, what it is, I kind of just thought about it, and I thought, well, you know, I'm tired of having to explain things to people when they call me. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some free stuff to, you know, still working on that, of course, but that's waiting for a little bit of money to come. So do some free stuff I can do on this one to kind of, like Robert DIY says, get it to stage 0. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. And anyway, I'll show you right under the back here. I got the fuel tank all put back in. I painted all under the back of the car. I know it's real dark, you can't really see, but got the straps painted the rear end. Everything under there, detailed it, like some people like to say, detailed it out. So I checked this car. They give you a little bit of information. GM cars from about 84 onwards, they had a thing called a SPID label, and that's basically service parts identification. And it's a little, I don't know, about a 4x3 inch label that's usually on a car. It's usually with a trunk. It's usually on the inside of the trunk lid. And on a wagon or a El Camino, it's somewhere like over the spare tire cover. And so that tells you all your options. But this car is a year older than that, so it doesn't have one. They didn't start that till 84 on these. So there's no real way to know what options it has on it unless you can find the broadcast sheet, the build sheet, which is probably in one of the seats somewhere in the springs, and I'm not going to dig it out right now. But I was curious though what ratio rear end this had in it, so I got under it, and General Motors rear ends have a code on the front side. The front side, like if you're under the car looking this way at the axle tube on this one, the passenger side. I'm gonna get behind here and tell you a little clearer. This axle tube on this side, front side of it, they have, if you scrape that down with some sandpaper or something, you'll find a code stamped in it. Like this one's got 2AX stamped into it, and that's your ratio code. And so that tells you what kind of gear ratio it has. And most of these cars like this that are not performance cars, the ratios start out high and get even higher. But this one's not that bad. This is a 273 open rear end, so that's better than a 256 or a 229 or a 214, which they could have been put in there. I had a friend one time had a 86 Cutlass, V8 Cutlass. It was not a 442, but it was a 307. Real nice car. And that car was a it was 307 with 204R 4-speed automatic transmission and a 256 rear gear in it. And you talk about a slug, man, that thing, it didn't even want to stay in high gear unless you were doing about 60 miles an hour. But it was a positive traction, limited slip rear end. And positive traction is the same thing as limited slip. It's just a different name for it. But that car, you talk about a car that would not spin the tires no matter what you did. That poor little car, that thing was the biggest slug I ever seen. But finally he ran that 307 so hard it started using oil, so he got a crate 350, an Oldsmobile 350, and put in it, and it ran better. It really did. It had more power, more torque, but it still didn't want to spin the tires. But once you got them spinning with that 350, man, it'd burn them off. But he ended up selling it before he ever went any further with it. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. I gotta get the rest of my mess picked up. We can probably have some rain in this evening. You can see the clouds moving in. I gotta get a shower again. I'm nasty. I've been rolling around in the dirt back here. You might need a piece of a shoe sole. Yeah, stage 0. I don't know what that means. Somebody can tell me that. So, alright guys, well, thanks for watching. The little project here is completed, and I'm gonna take this thing for a drive after a while and see how it rides, and see if that kind of limbered it up a little bit, getting that extra bit of suspension travel back in it. So, alright, we'll see. Report back later. Have a good one, guys. Bye bye.